Good word.
Alrighty, welcome to another kitchen sink microscopy, live croscopy, where we come at you live over the interwebs. And well, sorry, I'm explaining it in this way. I'm getting in the mood to explain things to an alien. We're going to have an alien guest on the show today.
Well, it's kind of experimental, isn't it?
Yeah,
We don't
kind of
know
an
exactly
alien.
how well this is going to work. If it doesn't work,
Mi-
then
Yeah, might as well be an alien because, I mean, let's
Mhm.
face it, AI is kind of like season one data
Yeah, yeah,
at this
kind of.
stage, like
Hmm.
just curious human behavior. So the concept we came up with last week during the episode was like I think we were talking about the stock market, and I was like, try explaining that to an alien. Like it only makes sense because we're humans. Like
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
and so yeah, maybe we just start with that one.
Sure, yeah, yeah, that
Yeah.
works.
So I've prepared Chat GPT to role play as an alien, and we're going to ask it to uh,
Well,
basically, well,
we're going
ask
to
us.
explain.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's going to ask us, well, what is this Earth thing you call kissing? Uh,
Hmm. Yeah, and so Casey, your mic feeds into that. Mine doesn't. So you're going to have to like summarize and
Yep.
feed that back in. So that's just to let anybody know, who's
Yeah.
watching, like why we're doing that. Because
I speak alien, so I will
yeah,
interpret what Eric says to the
hmm,
alien. Yes.
yeah,
So
we'll see how it goes. It'll be a fun experiment, I think.
yeah, yeah. So how should I phrase that question? Or I guess it wouldn't be a question. It would be like have you heard of the stock market or something?
Yeah, that works. Yeah,
Or
something like that.
does your planet have a stock market?
Well, because we're supposed to explain how it works on Earth. That's the point. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, maybe like,
Yeah. Does your
uh,
planet have a stock market? Oh, wait. I don't. Uh, Now I don't know what I'm doing. Ah, what?
hmm?
Did you say something? Oh, I think ChatGPT started talking.
Yeah.
That was weird. Um, shit, I just fucking lost it. That bugger. All right. I
Well,
probably won't remember now. Um, I guess I have to type all that shit again, damn it.
hey, yeah.
Fucking
Well,
technology.
I'll try to entertain people, I guess, or distract people while you're doing that. Yeah, I think the premise behind this, and again, we may not be able to pull this off because obviously it's buggy. But the premise behind this was if an alien who doesn't have any previous knowledge of Earth came to Earth and saw all the things that we do here, um, and then asked us about those things, how would we explain that behavior or those activities, and would the alien comprehend that, or how would they interpret that essentially? Which I don't know that ChatGPT could possibly be perfect as an alien coming in to ask us questions.
All right. It apparently wants to pretend it's from the Andromeda cluster. It's
Okay.
getting into the it's method acting here. All right. So maybe this first one I'll just type it in.
Yeah, yeah. I
What is the stock market like in the Andromeda cluster?
Well, because now we're asking it about its own stuff rather than it asking us about our stuff. So maybe it should be rephrased.
Hmm.
Maybe say, "Shall we tell you about
Oh, yeah, maybe that'll work
that?" That
better.
might about our stock market. Let's say that. That way, it's kind of clear.
Shall we tell you about the stock market on Earth? Oh, yes, please. My antennae are quivering with curiosity.
What, are they Andorian? Hmm.
Tell me, how do humans exchange these stocks? Do you barter physical objects or do you trade abstract ownerships in invisible constructs while staring at glowing rectangles and panicking over numbers that go up and down? I think it has some prior knowledge
I
here.
I'm gonna, yes, venture to guess that, yeah, yes, that's what I was thinking. Oh man, well, because I was thinking like it should be more on a fundamental level of like what the stock market is and why it is and how it is. Uh,
Hmm.
let's see. Oof, boy. Now I'm just trying to think like how, without getting too complicated, how do you explain a stock market in a succinct way?
Right.
Um,
Well,
uh,
okay, so I tried it last week by, just off the cuff being like, you basically buy like a little piece of a business, and
mhm.
then that piece of the business becomes worth more or less depending on, well, a lot of things, I guess.
Yeah, it
Uh,
does. Yeah.
it's rather complicated, doesn't
I know it is. Maybe we chose like the wrong starting point here.
it?
Oh man. Yeah, how, boy, I mean, I think kind of what you're saying there is generally good,
Okay,
as a way
well,
of
we can start
explaining.
there and see what happens here.
Okay.
So the stock market is essentially where you buy a little piece of a business, and then
So
depending on how well that business does, that piece of the business might become worth more or less money over time.
should include the selling side of it too,
Oh, right, yeah.
because that's how you make money or lose money, I guess.
Okay, well, how should I phrase that though?
Well, because you said buy, but you could say buy
Mhm.
and or sell.
Oh, yeah, okay. Um, Maybe I should say that the goal is to sell that piece of the business once it becomes worth more.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. The goal is to sell your piece of the business when it is worth more than what you purchased it for.
Good. That's, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start there and see what it says. Fascinating. So you fragment your planetary enterprises into countless tiny ownership shards,
Shards, nice. That's what
distribute
I'm going to
them
call
among your
shares now. I'm gonna
yeah,
totally going to say shards instead of
shards.
shares. That's
I
awesome.
have 30 shards of Google.
Just make sure you speak clearly because it could be sharts.
So distribute them among your population and then collectively guess which shards will grow shinier over time. From an Andromedan perspective, that sounds like temporal value gambling. Ah,
Hmm.
instead of trading energy or thought potential, you trade confidence in future productivity.
Well, okay, then you should also add that there's more factors than just perception that are at play, that it has to do with like how the business performs, how the market operates, other businesses, like
Hmm,
government activities, all these things kind of play into that fluctuation. So it
okay.
isn't purely gambling. There's like actual things happening that do influence that, is kind of what I'm.
It also poses a question. Tell me,
Okay.
do Earth beings actually contribute to the businesses they partially own, or do they simply observe them from afar and emotionally oscillate based on the color of their numerical symbols?
Wow, that's geez, that's digging into the dictionary there.
Jesus.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're it, you can influence businesses. Obviously, if you have enough shares in a company, you can kind of like dictate things or whatever.
Yeah.
Which maybe even bring in that actually is what humans kind of see as a potential problem with the
Yeah.
system. That like say that okay, yeah,
Although
shareholders can
you aren't voting on the day-to-day business aspects.
no.
It's more like, does this CEO get a pay raise and blah blah
Well,
blah.
yeah, I mean it's bigger picture sort of things, not like yeah. That's why you
Yeah.
have a CEO because they delegate down and yeah.
Mm.
But there is influence from people who own the shards.
So maybe first we'll elucidate on the gambling distinction.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes.
so, okay, so
Maybe say we'll come back to that question in a minute. We'll start with. I'll
yeah,
follow up with what I said before.
uh, I keep hitting the wrong button and like, don't tell me I lost it again.
Oh boy,
Jesus
are we
Christ.
gonna get another alien now?
Fuck yeah, fuck Chat GPT, man. Like I hit this other button and it's all like, hello to advanced voice mode.
But usually with that, you can like go back to previous
But
conversations.
it grays out the back. And then
What?
like, yeah. So I mean, I guess I'll hit continue. And yeah, it's completely wiped out the chat now.
Ah, jeez.
That's annoying. You know what? Fuck that.
Yeah, we'll. It's too complicated right now, and obviously
Mhm.
buggy, and we'll.
We can just riff on weird human things and how aliens might be confused by
Yeah,
them.
yeah, I
AI
like
just
that.
complicates things.
Plus the AI, it's like it already kind of it knows too much already
Hmm.
is the problem. So it isn't coming from a standpoint of total ignorance.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe one could say in some cases there could be things that would be parallel, I guess. Um, but yeah, like I would honestly, I would say if an alien came down to Earth or visited, or aliens, I guess, visited Earth and saw the stock market, they'd be very confused
Yeah.
because it kind of, if you look at it, it really doesn't make a whole lot of, well, if you look at it from certain perspectives, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Hmm.
Like it does in some ways, because I mean, it's kind of like, all right, well, it's a reasonable tool for what we have in the current state of things, but like it is weird.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
strange. Like, what? Wait, how pieces of shards of a company
Shards.
that
I
are
love that.
traded? Hmm.
Yeah, and well, the weird thing about it is that they can do all kinds of random weird shit to those shares,
Hmm.
like on a whim, that completely like fuck over the shareholders, or like enter them into some kind of gambling scenario where like all of a sudden the shares are worth way less, but maybe at a certain point, if they hit a certain milestone, they might be worth a bit more. And it's like there's a lot of stuff that is like completely happenstance. Like
Hmm.
it isn't something that you plan by entering into the stock market game,
Hmm.
and this is why I feel like it really is gambling. It's albeit a complex and different form of gambling than something you would find in a casino, of course.
Hmm.
It's also different from like sports betting or something like that. But you are effectively betting on the success of a company,
Yeah.
and your supposed uh, like educated guesses are just that. And just like in gambling, where you think you're seeing patterns and stuff like that, maybe you are, maybe you're not, and
Hmm.
maybe you're getting lucky here and there, and I
Well,
feel
I
I feel
would
like in that aspect it should be considered like a form of gambling, like
it,
in the spectrum of gambling, let's say.
it's I would say like it's closer to gambling than not, but
Hmm.
traditional gambling either involves, well, trickery, which like your street gambling and stuff like that. But in general, it's a lot of randomized patterns and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I think of when I think of gambling. It's like, okay, you buy a scratch ticket or whatever, and they just come on a big roll, and you never know who grabbed one before and how many they have, and so it's pretty randomized. Whereas like the stock market, there are actual forces that influence the company.
Yeah.
There's
But
all kinds of things, and so if you're observant, you can kind of predict how things, like I say, kind of predict how things will go, because obviously you have the human element, like what decisions the company makes, other companies that influence that company. Like it's all kind of a
okay.
web, and so it's
I
very
mean,
complex.
you can make that argument for sports betting too. Like, oh, like these players have certain skill sets and they work well with their teammates and blah blah blah. Like I can see them going to the Super Bowl or whatever.
Yeah,
We have to be careful not to confuse the mechanisms of the odds in which whatever is taking place with the actual placing of money on the odds of that happening. Like
yeah.
that's the act of gambling. The act of gambling is putting money on something. How that interacts with whatever is irrespective of the gambling, you know?
Well, yeah, but you can also say that the how what is the I guess the defining line between investment and gambling? Because like if there's
Euphemism.
somebody, well, in a way, yeah, because I mean you
Because
are,
it's not a guaranteed
no,
investment. I
no,
mean,
no.
okay, I guess the definition of investment is just putting money into something. You
Hmm.
don't have a guarantee of a profit, but
Well, typically investment involves the hope
right.
of a profit being
So is
made.
gambling though.
Yeah, yeah. Now here's one thing I will say that maybe expands the scope a little bit, to differentiate between gambling and investment, is that typically you don't see a lot of gamblers being very wealthy, but you do see a lot of investors being very wealthy. Now, going back to what I said earlier, street gambling, involves a lot of deception too. So there could be a little cheating happening for the people that make a lot of money. But then again,
Mm.
it may not be that way. It could be like, okay, well, if you put a lot of money in something in it as an investment, then you might get a lot of return. Um, but if you do that with, say, go to a casino with like $1 million, and you're not going to come out richer for sure. Absolutely not. The house always wins. And so it's like, in that regard, I'd say look at like just observe the effects. That like the people going to the casinos are typically not wealthy, like when they come out, but the casinos are very nice. They have plenty of money, and so it's like when you go to investment, like yeah, I've known many people who that like their day job is investment. Like that's all they do is buy and sell stocks, and th- they got a hell of a lot more money than I do. So it's like the thing is, I guess if you kind of know what you're doing, or pay attention, you can actually, like, the odds are better, as far as investment. It's not 50-50. That's the thing. It's like when you're talking gambling, well, it's actually less than, like, you as the gambler have
Well,
less
again,
likelihood to come out ahead.
it sounds like your definition of gambling is all that which happens within a casino. But like the
No, that's just an
games with
example.
even the games within the casino, the odds vary wildly.
Mm-hmm.
And some don't even have a human component to them. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
like
Slot machines for sure are not. They're randomized, like, well, in general. So you know you're not going to come out ahead if you play slot machines. However, maybe blackjack, something like that. Okay, it's kind of, there's a little bit of skill involved to kind
yeah,
of, so there are some elements, but that's what I'm saying. It edges more. It is gambling esque, but investment is a little bit different. And now, how do you explain that to an alien? Um,
yeah,
because here's the thing: it's like, from an alien perspective, they would just ask why. Why? Why are you doing
right, right.
this?
Well, and you know what? Like I would even say define for me like becoming wealthy from investment. Like, example was people who just buy and sell stocks all day, like day trading or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Um, so how many gamblers are in a casino 8 hours a day? Like usually uh, people just kind of go after work or something, throw a little money in, and that's that. Like the amount of time invested in the actual act is far less. And there are people who do win the lottery. There are people who do hit jackpots at the casino. There are people who win a huge fucking pool or whatever they call it for fantasy football and blah blah blah. Like people
Hmm.
do win things and
Sure, sure.
people
Now,
do well in the stock market,
I,
but a
I,
hell of a lot of people
I
don't.
I think, well, okay, here's what I would say would be the differentiation, which classifies it as a different thing than just straight up gambling, is the factors that influence the outcome. Say, of like let's just keep it simple for right now, a slot machine. The factors that influence that outcome are unknown. It's a black box. Like, you, as the person participating, cannot know the things that influence that. It's inside the machine.
Hmm.
And then you have other games like card games and the roulette table and stuff. Those are very random. Like, I guess if you had some kind of special machine that could read gravitational forces and keep track of the spin and whatever, maybe you could do that. But like, when it comes to the stock market, the factors that influence the value of a company and the shares thereof, those are observable, real, trackable things. Like, there is a thing that occurs that causes that change, that you can observe and track, and you know keep. So there's a that is the difference, I think, in that.
That can
it,
also be your downfall though, because what you're tracking oftentimes is human bias.
well, no,
And
but okay, yes, I know, and but that doesn't make it, like, that doesn't make it the same as, like, a slot machine.
I'm not saying
That's
it's
what
the
I'm saying
same
is,
as a slot machine. I'm saying it's gambling. Like
well,
a slot machine is not the same as blackjack. A slot
no, I
machine
know,
is not the
but
same as a horse
yes,
race,
yes, but that's my point, is I want to make that, I want to broaden the scope to where it's
Yeah.
not just, you can't just say it's gambling. It's like, yes, there is gambling. It is a form of betting, and it has gambling elements to it, but it isn't just straight up clean gambling.
I mean,
Because you could say one could,
earlier when
okay,
I
look,
said
but
like putting money on something is gambling, and how that money is paid out based on whatever mechanisms is entirely separate from the act of gambling itself. So like essentially like this is what you're telling me is like, well, anal sex isn't real sex because there's no vagina involved. The vagina casino in this in this scenario
no,
is
no,
like,
no, no. But here's the thing: if we were to take your logic and apply it across the board, then we could say any human endeavor is gambling. Anything. Whether you start a project, you don't know if you're going to succeed. You try to
yeah,
repair something, you take a drive, you don't know if you're going to get in an accident. You hop on a plane, you don't know if it's going to fall apart. You start a
absolutely true.
company. So it's
That's
like
absolutely
all that
true. I
we
mean, we
do is
even say this in colloquialisms. We
yeah,
say,
yeah,
I'm really gambling with this, like
yeah, and
it's
that's kind of
true,
what that's sort of what I guess my the gist of my argument here is that
Yeah.
it's a spectrum, and that
Yeah, it's just
with
funny. Like,
like
why is there so much pushback when people hear equating investment with gambling as if gambling like always means slot machine odds,
no,
Like,
it's probably because of the stigma attached to it, and that the like when you say that the interpretation is kind of universal in people's minds when it the reality is actually quite different. And that's why like I did that minute microscopy a while back about tagging and graffiti, and
mhm.
how I personally make a distinction between tagging and graffiti. Graffiti is a proper art form. Like you're creating something that is like a work of art essentially.
Mhm.
Yes, you're performing the same operation, spray paint on walls and stuff like that, whereas tagging is kind of indiscriminate and it's crude and it's not really art. It's just like you're putting your name on something or defacing something. To me that's tagging. Graffiti is basically it's in the same
Yeah. And
umbrella
if
as
and if you
tagging.
take the spray can and you just blanket the entire wall in one color, you're just painting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So is painting
Or is it
the same?
graffiti?
I know. And this is the thing
It's
about
all
language.
semantics.
Well, it, yeah, it is, but there's a reason why we make those distinctions. So it can be clear what you're referring to. And so that because what ends up happening, I think, and this is like uh, okay, here's another example of why it's very important to have different terms for things that are maybe in the same classification but are quite different in reality. Sex offender, right? If I say, oh, that person's a sex offender, what do you think? You immediately go to pedophile, right?
Right.
Diddling kids. Everybody, that's what everybody defaults to.
Or
When
rapist.
well,
But
yeah, exactly. But
well,
something
you
like
could have just been taking a leak in public too.
that's the point. That's the
Yeah.
point. And that's why we need to have that's why language we need a colorful array of terminology for things that kind of separate one thing from another.
Yeah.
And because like that
Normally we argue against putting things in buckets, but like these are the nuances that
well,
do require delineation,
yes. And actually I'm advocating for like actually taking that bucket and opening it up into several smaller buckets,
Right.
right? So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, in order, honestly, in order for things to even be comprehensible when we're communicating, we do need to categorize things. It's just,
Yeah.
it has to happen. That's the way the human brain works, you know? And so I think, but
Well,
we don't want to, what
can I
we,
just say how ridiculous it is to take a leak and be considered a sex offender?
I
Like
know,
that
I
is
fully,
beyond fucked up. Like these are
mm-hmm,
people that have to register whenever they move, how close
yes,
they are to a school, blah blah
yes.
blah. And
Oh,
and
and
you're
not only that,
lumping them in with rapists and pedophiles.
keep in mind they're also on a publicly available list that
Yeah,
people look at, and
with their
they,
picture
yeah,
and their
yeah,
address.
yeah, exactly. Well, what if you're just like sunbathing naked, like maybe you're on the beach or something like that? Oh, that could also be interpreted as something depending on your jurisdiction.
Yeah,
um, and
explain that to an alien.
yeah,
Aliens are probably naked all the time.
I know they're like, what, you wear clothes? That's so weird. Like, oh, and
Well, you
sex.
see, there's this thing called the Bible and the what?
Yeah,
Oh, geez.
it's like, oh, this
We're
conversation is
gonna be
going to
here
go
all
on.
day.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think this is an important thought exercise because
Mhm.
people, we need to self-reflect. We need to be kind of asking the question of like, well, why is that? I mean, that's something that I've done, geez, since like high school, where I started questioning things. And I was like, having conversations with my mom about marriage or whatever. And I'm like, why do we even do that? That doesn't even make any sense. And she's like, well, because of this and this and that. And I'm like, but none of those things make sense either.
Yeah.
And it started me down a path. Same thing with like monogamy, and that's why I'm non-monogamous now, because I just started asking questions, like, and being like, well, wait, if you follow the logic, there's a break there, like that doesn't there's a disconnect. So it's like people are drawing lines where there isn't actually a connection.
Hmm.
They and so it's like, well, okay, we could say those things are close, that maybe they're in the same general region, but they don't directly connect. The one thing doesn't necessarily lead to the other.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, but I think it's important that we do
Well,
this all the
marriage
time.
marriage is a good example of um it's kind of like the stock market of relationships.
It kind of is, isn't it?
Like if you think about it, like it is still gambling. You don't know if you'll remain married
Mm-hmm.
forever. You
Mm-hmm.
might sell that shard. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yep.
and but people feel the necessity to delineate it from every other relationship by calling it marriage, as if there's some kind of magical um, aspects to it
Yeah.
that sets it apart from
Mm-hmm.
from regular gambling. I mean
Well,
relationships, you know.
and you're that actually, that's a good point. And in that regard, I think there is a distinction to be made, and that's the legal distinction.
Hmm.
That like, if you're just in a partnership, just you just like, oh, we live together or we live apart, and
Yeah,
we've just committed to be together until we decide to not be. um there's no legal anything there.
right.
Whereas with marriage, you sign a contract. It's a contractual thing, so you have obligations, and the state will enforce those obligations.
Yeah,
And so there is a difference. However, they're really close to each other.
yeah.
um
Well, just like you don't own the uh, seven of diamonds and the ace of spades at your table, even though you call them your cards,
yeah.
and then the casino just takes them back at the end of the hand, like,
Mhm.
just because you put your money into something or your time into something, into some agreement with another person, it doesn't cross over into that legal boundary that I mean, like, I'm not at all advocating for removing the use of words like investment or stock market or anything like that. Although
Mhm.
I actually would think the stock market wouldn't be totally necessary anymore, but that's a whole other conversation. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but the point is, like, I, I despite the delineation, I do still see it in the realm or the spectrum, let's say, of gambling.
Hmm.
And
Yeah. You,
same with relationships and marriage. It's like they are all relationships, right? I
hmm.
think everyone agrees on that, but
Yeah.
there is a delineation and
There's a difference. And if you
same
have a
thing.
casual relationship, that's different than one where you live together, or where you hook,
Mhm.
like connect on the regular.
Yep.
uh and yeah, you made me think of something, talking about ownership, owning cards and stuff, and it gave me a very profound thought that I think uh, should, should change the way people perceive everything in their life. And that
Okay, I'm
is,
gonna turn up the volume while you explain that, and I'm gonna pee.
okay, well, it's a very quick statement, but all ownership is temporary. And the idea being like, you sure, you can have legal ownership of things, you can have things that you possess in your house, you whatever, but like your life is finite. Things that you get could be finite. You buy an apple, it's not going to be yours forever. It will eventually, like, entropy will creep in and tear it apart. Electronic devices, they go obsolete, or batteries corrode, and things like that. um, and yeah, also property. houses, things like that. The environment is out to get them, and so they're fleeting ultimately. And I, to me, I don't know. It's now just now I'm getting all just philosophical, I guess, in my head here that maybe it well, here's another thing. A pet. I just recently went through the loss of a pet, my cat Floyd. I say my cat. He was my cat. He lived here in this house. He never left because he was not an outdoor cat. But he eventually died, and so it's like that's goes back to my point. All ownership is temporary.
Well, yeah.
That's not to say we as others should enforce that temporariness, but as an owner of a thing, we should consider the fact that it won't be here forever, and we're
Right.
not going to be here forever. And so,
I would um I would pose a philosophical statement to go along with that, in that, given that ownership of anything is fleeting,
mhm.
why would anyone ever uh, take a life in order to protect the ownership of their property? You're
Yeah.
removing permanently the
Ooh,
life and
okay.
autonomy of another person
Yep.
just to maintain the ownership
I
of something.
that goes into the anarchist philosophy and like the libertarian philosophy and things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
like
why I
where
strongly feel like shooting someone over like robbery or something is like, I mean, unless
it's
they're going to shoot you or something, that's something else altogether. But if you don't even know if they have a gun and you just shoot them,
mhm.
eh.
Yeah, and I've kind of reconciled everything. Like I've done a lot of thought experiments in this realm, quite a lot actually, and I think it is justified. Say you're in your house, somebody kicks down the door, you are justified in using lethal force against them because there's an unknown and you may have to act fast. Okay, if you're in another room in the house and somebody breaks in and they grab your TV and they're running out the door, it is not justified to shoot them in the back.
Right.
That like now, okay, there are exceptions to things like theft, and those are things that are critical to your livelihood, or maybe something so important that
Right.
it
They're
can't.
stealing your bag of insulin or something
Yeah,
like.
yeah, exactly, or something like that, or something that's so irreplaceable and so personally important. Like for instance, somebody takes the urn that is holding your father's ashes and goes running out the door. Like, okay, I mean, yes, it's technically not really justified, but I could totally see that.
Yeah,
I'd be
I
like,
might
well,
even let
all right.
that go because it's like, once once we're dead, we're just
Mm-hmm.
ash anyway. We're just things,
I
and
know, I understand, and I agree with that, but not forever. Everybody doesn't feel that way. Some people,
yeah.
it is so integral to their being that, like, if that were gone, they would be a hollow shell, essentially. And so there, so that's one of those gray areas where it's like, okay, we'd have to have a conversation about that one as to
Mm.
why. But like, yeah, in general, if someone's running out of the house or whatever, or they just want like your wallet. Well, okay, if they point a gun at you, that changes things. That
Yeah.
changes things. If they pickpocket you, you don't have a right to shoot them. If they point a gun at you and say, "Give me your wallet," you do have a right to shoot them because you can't anticipate what will come next. Because there's a
Except they've already got the jump on you at that
well, yeah,
point. So
yeah, yeah.
you
You'd have to
you
have one of
kind of
those.
don't really have a choice.
Yeah,
You're losing your wallet anyway.
you would have to have a sneaky gun somewhere, like in your sleeve or something like. But yeah, in general, in that case, you'd be like, all right, well, whatever, let it go. It's not that big of a deal because yeah, at the end of the day, things are just things. Although there's meaning attached to things that it's like it's almost like your experiences get interwoven with the fabric of whatever the thing is, depending. I have all kinds of things in my house that that are representative of experiences in my life that are really important. And like, yeah,
Did you
cameras
ever
and
see
things.
that show Warehouse 9? I think it was called Warehouse 13.
Uh-uh.
I think it was Warehouse 13. It was kind of a cool like sci-fi show where there was this like warehouse of all these, they called them artifacts, and
Mm.
they would be like, random things from history that were like imbued with some kind of mystical power because of the momentous history that they experienced or whatever,
Mm.
like Edison's lamp or something, and it would do a certain thing or something, like some
Yeah.
mystical supernatural thing. And so it was kind of like these secret agents that were in charge of like collecting and housing them safely and stuff. And
Hmm.
but it was kind of about that, like there would be famous figures in history who would own a thing, and it would become, like endowed with some kind of power based on, whatever, just because of who they were and what it is. And
Huh.
uh,
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, and certainly collectors perceive things that way.
Hmm.
Like, oh, if you had, Bruce Lee's shoes or something like that, it's like, oh, well, you look at it and there, it's just a pair of used shoes. But then to a lot of people, it's like, but they're Bruce Lee's shoes, or a baseball from some really pivotal game or something like that. It's like, it's a baseball the same as any other baseball. Why is that a
Yeah.
bit? Why are you paying like $100,000 for that? You
Right.
know, and but and that's from the collector side, but also you have your own personal things, your own personal artifacts that only mean something to you. Like, people will look around my house, and unless they've been around me during certain events and time periods and things, they'd have no idea the significance of any of those things. But to me, I'm like, oh yeah, yep, that thing. I bought that thing at that one event where that one girl was there, and oh man, and it just
That
brings
might be
back
one
memories.
thing where an alien would understand, and that might be like a thing that would, bring us together with
Mm-hmm.
aliens. It's like, oh yeah, I can totally understand that. I also have things that are lifeless but mean a lot to me. Like,
Mm-hmm. Well,
um,
yeah, and that's where I guess I take a little bit of issue with the term "things are just things" as just an umbrella statement, because yeah, okay, when you're speaking technically, yes, in fact, things aren't even things at all if you want to get really technical and pedantic. Um, but yeah, it's matter and energy, all right. Um, but it, because there are things that are more significant than other things. Like, nobody cares about the package that their food came in. They toss it in the garbage and away it goes. They don't lament the loss of that or go looking for it sometime. But there are things that maybe are, because like I remember, and there's a thing I wanted to bring up, and hopefully I remember to do it after this. But when I was a kid, I loved GI Joes, and I had the Spirit GI Joe, the Native American guy. I believe, right? He was Spirit. I have too much beer. But anyway, um, so I had a few, and I had one of the little belt carrier things that held like three GI Joe figures. And for whatever reason, like, we were at a park, my family, and for whatever reason, there was this really beautiful thing by a lake, and I just wanted my favorite GI Joe to like sit there and see it, right? And so I set him down by the tree, and I walked over because we were having a picnic, and I kind of ate some snacks and whatnot, and then I came back and it was gone. And so somebody stole him, and I was really sad about that. And of course, years later, I went back and bought another one, but it's like it's not the same. It's not the one
yeah.
that like I carried every day, you know. And like, there's a yeah. So I did remember the other thing. So there's an excellent advertisement for eBay that I, oh God, I think it was like like in the 2000s, like 2000 to 2010, that kind of range. Um, Basically, it it shows like this kid playing on a beach with a little boat, and the he like walks away, and the waves come and sweep it away, and then it shows this like amazing adventure this little boat had, like going across the ocean, like all over the place, like, and they made it really dramatic. It was really cool. It even had like a shot where the boat was like kind of shot close, and there was this big huge boat behind it, and they were like crossing the ocean together. And then there's this old man sitting at a computer, and he's looking on eBay, and he finds that boat in like another country across the ocean, and he's like, and he buys it, and it's like, oh man, that's a tearjerker, because like, man, that's such a good ad. But that's that's where things do have significance. But it's like once you die, that memory is gone. Nobody knows. It's going to Goodwill. You know, your
Yeah.
family is going to pack all your shit up and put it in boxes, and then it'll be sold for like $1 on some shelf somewhere.
You
And
know, when my parents died, I had so my dad died like a month before my mom, and
mhm,
I flew back and I was like, okay, well, now the house is empty. I'm gonna get some of these ring cameras put up around, just make sure nobody's like squatting in there or something,
mhm.
and uh and then eventually when I sold the place, the cameras were still up, and I would log in every now and then and watch. There was like in the backyard a giant dumpster, and people just bringing all my memories out and just chucking it into the dumpster as I'm watching, and I'm
Oh man,
like like I didn't watch a bunch, but I also didn't want to not watch it because I
yeah,
felt like it's good to see that and be like, okay, like does that really mean that much to me? Like,
yeah.
this
Well,
touch that I grew up like use propping myself up, learning to walk,
mhm.
is now being like just chucked into the garbage, like, eh, I
It's
don't
kind
know.
of it's cathartic. It's a form of
Yeah,
closure in a
yeah.
way.
It's like these things do come to an end at some point, and at
Yeah.
least I get to witness it ending in some fashion,
Yeah,
I
I
guess,
mean, I guess it's kind of like if you have somebody who goes missing, and you never know, and decades go by, and then finally they're like, "Oh yeah, we found the remains of that person," and you're like, "Okay, well, now I can let it go,"
Mm,
um, and stuff. Yeah, it's amazing how connected we are with the things around us. I It goes into nature too. There's a song by the Dave Matthews Band called the Dreaming Tree, and oh my god, it's such a beautiful song. But like basically, it tells the story of somebody, perhaps him, I don't know. Childhood experiences, meeting, like hanging out with his first love there, and growing old, and all this stuff, and then the tree ends up dying, and like, yeah. And I think about that too around where I live, because there's so much flux, like so
yeah.
many things, like my yard, I had all these beautiful huge trees that created this canopy of like privacy and shelter, and they were growing in the neighbor's yard, and the neighbor ended up cutting all of them down, so now the backyard is like wide open, and it made me sad,
Uh,
because I'm like, well, I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day, and it's not my property, it's theirs. So they're entitled to do that. But like, you could have at least left one tree, you know? Um, and I was very bitter at first. But
Yeah,
then
I
I
mean,
met,
for all you know, the trees were sick and might have fallen on your house and killed you.
well, if possible, yeah. And
Yeah.
eventually I met the neighbors and stuff, and kind of internally reconciled that. And it's like, okay, well, whatever, it just,
Are
I
they the
miss
ones
it.
that would hang out around the casket in the backyard?
Oh yeah, no, they
Oh,
sold the property, and so somebody else bought, and they moved in and just started cutting everything down.
mm, probably uh, came across whatever body was buried back there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, and that's something I think everybody should consider too. Is like, don't be bitter about things that other people do that are outside of your control. Or
Mm,
in a way, it's also kind of goes into acceptance of other people who have different lifestyles or something like that. Like judging people who, like, okay, if they're living in your house, that's one thing. But if they're like two houses away or a block away or in a different city or different country, who cares?
hmm.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, like all the stuff in politics that is geared around like pitting people against each other for, who they love, what color their skin is, what piece of dirt they were born on.
Mm-hmm.
It's all bullshit. And
Yeah,
and all of it, like, even if somebody comes from another country and gets public benefits on your tax dime, which they can't, like, at all, but even if they did,
not federally.
like, why would it bother you so much when you're not bothered by all the other fucking waste of tax that's happening on your dime, all the other shit that you're paying for, all the wars that you're subsidizing, all the, like,
Nonsense pet projects and shit.
yeah,
Well,
like
and
like
that's
all
a
all
good,
the all the welfare for the corporations and stuff,
yeah, and
like
that's a
all
good
that stuff
perspective.
we pay for, and we're not fucking pissed at nearly as much at them. Why?
And that, well, yeah, it because they're easy targets. That's why.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, they're easy targets to draw your attention away from the people that are actually hurting you
mhm.
and you're paying for.
Well, and that's a good perspective to have. Like
Mm,
we should be. I think we should dig deeper. Okay, here's something. Anytime you start getting emotional about something, like if you get angry or you're fearful or something like that, you it's first rule of crisis response. Uh, don't panic. You know, like you should stop and start thinking about it. And like we had talked about the why, asking why, and essentially leading down a path to the origin of something. And at that point, you, probably, hopefully, if you're a sensible person through that journey, you'll come out the other side having a much more wizened perspective, I think. And maybe all that stuff that you thought was such a big deal turns out to be nothing.
mm,
And you could be like, whatever. And then you could be like, wait, okay. But through the course of this, now there are some roads that connect to this that lead to something that's actually worthy of anger, you know, like, or criticism or something like that. Like you said, yeah. And the hypocrisy, like, I'm against all waste, all taxes. I think it all should go away. Like, and we need, like, I believe in the community solution for things, but like, if you believe that taxes are okay and that this stuff is okay, well, why not that stuff then? Right? Like, you can't just pick and choose,
yeah,
or like these people, but not those people. Like that doesn't make any sense. And
yeah. I don't know why they don't just create like different tiers, like an a la carte sort
mhm,
of situation where, like, you can pay in, like, everybody has to pay a bare minimum amount for the things that you can't really parse out,
mhm.
like, like roads and energy and blah blah blah, like
Yeah.
stuff that everyone just kind of shares from a giant pool
Well,
or whatever.
the
But
things that are dependent on
yeah,
more than, like, it's not just your property and yourself. Like,
Yeah.
oh, like a road travels great distances through all kinds of properties and near all kinds of people. So it that's a different animal than like your I don't know, driveway.
Yeah. But, for schools or whatever, like if you never have kids, why pay into tax for schools or something, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, I can see that argument,
Sure. Yeah.
health, like you decide once I'm 67, I don't want medical anything. I never want to go to the doctor. I'll just die
Mhm.
when I die, like okay,
Yeah.
don't pay and you don't go to the doctor, like
Yeah.
and if you're like, "Oh, I want to go to the doctor now." Tough shit. You didn't pay anything, like
Well, at that point, what they do is they charge you money for it.
or yeah, yeah.
They'd be like, all right, well, I can't afford it. Payment plan. And you're like, oh,
Mhm.
well, I mean, that's the only option, isn't it?
Yeah, like I don't see why stuff like that couldn't happen in this day and age with the technology we have.
Mm-hmm.
You could just, like have a fucking smart ID, like,
Mm-hmm.
and they could scan it and be like, okay, this is the tier of tax you're paying, so you can totally have this benefit to you.
Well, yeah, like imagine if you had a profile out there and you could check boxes of where you wanted things to go,
Yeah.
something like that. And we have talked about that in the past, and I think that's a better idea than how we're doing it now. But
Hmm.
you know why the system doesn't want that is because they're
They want to control where the money goes.
yes, they're frivolously spending money on all
Mhm.
kinds of shit that none of us wants,
Yeah.
or we don't want nearly as much of that, like
But
the
a system like
military.
that is true democracy. Like that would
Mm-hmm.
be people actually telling the government where their money will go and what it
Mm-hmm.
will be spent on.
Well, and this is actually good because we can observe the impact of those decisions over time. And if there's enough people who don't want to do something, well, you do what you normally do when you don't have the barrel of a gun behind you. You make a compelling argument. You create an advertisement. You campaign on something
Yeah.
and explain to people why it's so important. And then if it turns out you lied or were incorrect and the things that you said would come to pass don't, well, then people can just uncheck that checkbox and they'll be like, well, okay, we're not going to pay for that stupid ass project. you
If a
know
politician lies.
yeah. I got news for you, man, they all lie. Every last one of those stinking bastards. Oh man, but I would like to see more of that. And this actually, okay, this is a happy medium, I suppose, between my school of thought and like most people's schools of thought, in that it it does bring like community involvement rather than everybody's forced to pay a certain amount out of whatever they make and stuff, and it just goes into this big bucket, and out of the bucket, a bunch of people somewhere else decide what they're gonna do with it you
Right.
know then hey, you have the like collective choice essentially to be like, no, we're not gonna, that F-35 project, that's stupid. you know
Well, I mean, you could also have like a la carte buckets for, catch-all stuff,
mm-hmm.
like because of course you can't possibly have everyone spend hours of their time like picking and choosing what needs money and how much of their money they want to give to it and stuff like
Yeah, they
that's
can't be,
impossible.
you can't have like a granular selection process like that.
Yeah,
That'd be,
but you can have like levels, like you can even have like little packages, like like these are the things I care most about. I want to funnel my money this
oh
way.
man,
You,
dude,
you could
wait,
also have like
wait. Oh, no, go ahead and finish.
I mean, you could have like research buckets. You could be like, oh, okay, I want research to go into, some money to go into research, or you don't care about research. You want money to go into fucking feeding people or whatever, like you
yeah.
just have like different extraneous buckets that you could put into things, and those people can lobby the government and be like, hey, we would like some money to do this thing. And they'd be like, okay. and nobody's nitpicking over it because they just take their extra cash and throw it there, and they're like, ah,
Yeah.
okay.
And the counter argument to any naysayer would be like, well, this is what the people want.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, here's the data, right?
Yeah.
Like, 75% of the population wants to do this thing. So
Nobody's ever like, I don't want my money going to cancer research.
yeah,
Like it's like
yeah,
if you put your money in that bucket, you don't care where it goes. You're helping someone. Like
yeah. Well, and
that's the
people
point.
people be like, well, I don't want my tax money going to keep up like the power poles and the utility, the grid and stuff until the power goes out. And then when they're sitting there for 2 days in the cold and that truck rolls up and the dude gets in the bucket and goes up and fixes it, they're like, oh my God, thank you. Like, yeah, yeah, okay, well, maybe that's something we might need. Now,
Mm.
the thought that occurred to me while where I had like interrupted you there was what if instead of check boxes, because so I recently decided for whatever reason to like reinstate and recreate my OK Cupid profile, and it's just as bad as ever, but I did it anyway. And the way it works is like there's a series of questions that you answer, and it's never ending, right? You can just keep answering all kinds of questions. It used to be you could kind of qualify it, like you could add a little text thing that would say why, because there's a lot of things where it's like a yes or no question where it's like, well, I mean, yeah, but this is maybe but anyway, what if everybody had something like that where you had a profile out there, like a citizen profile, and it would like you would take surveys, like take a survey and answer questions, and it would slowly build a picture of who you are and what you want and be much more fluid and not like partisan. It would be more principled, I guess. And so it could kind of like figure out. So when you do pay taxes, the system knows, oh yeah, Casey's tax, we're going to divvy it up this way, and Eric's tax is going to be divvied up that way. And so like you get kind of a better coverage, I think. And I don't know. I think something like that might work
Yeah.
because
There's a
yeah,
whole lot of ways we could try new
yeah,
things.
yep.
And we never do.
I know. Well, and this is the stupid thing. Like in the U.S., it's particularly stupid because like where you live, it's one country basically. I mean,
Mm.
you have obviously different regions and
Yeah.
things, but like they're not completely autonomous. Whereas like in the U.S., the states are like much more autonomous and independent. Um, we should allow for that, like experimentation. We need more of that. Like, hey, we have the perfect crucible. Like we
Yeah.
could totally do that. Just disconnect for a while and everybody kind of try something, see what happens, and then we look at the results. And
Yeah.
then we formulate a plan based on that. And the plan will never be like, oh, the winning state gets that's the plan we're going with. No, it'll be like we're going to take a little like the good ideas from this, the good results from that, whatever, and put it all together into something that makes more sense. Because I can
Yeah.
tell you, and I think, well, I unless you're living under a rock in the US or the world, probably, like most people don't think that this works.
It's absolutely asinine that we have to basically have there's no middle ground for this, right? Like you can petition the government to change its ways and do things in an entirely different way, which of course they won't.
Nope.
Or you can have a violent, bloody revolution and just do it yourself. But why isn't there like a way where you can just be like, hey, you know what? Let's start a government and, like get it going in like a beta phase. And then when it's ready to roll out, be like, hey, here's a competing government for the United States of
Yeah.
America. And here's how we do things. And here's our constitution. And here's how we handle tax. And
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And then if people are like, hey, I'm on board for that, then you get your United States of kitchen sink microscopy ID, and it's
Hmm.
like a smart ID, and that's how you pay taxes to Eric and I.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
take care of it.
Yeah. We're,
Well, hey, we'll take good care of your money.
mhm. Submit to your overlords. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that bugs me about this. It's funny how we always kind of like go into these random corners of conversation. But this is the thing that bugs me about it is like most people don't even think like we're thinking and discussing. Um,
Mhm.
they're kind of thinking in an either or kind of situation. Like, well, you know, like the lesser of two evils. It's like, well, you have one evil and then you have the prime evil. Like they're both evil, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then if you look, there's a bunch of all the supporters of the evils are like they don't think they're evil. They're like, well, no, those good guys, they're the bad guys. Like, and we're at an impasse essentially. That there's no way to have a nuanced system,
Yeah.
and because and people are so, I guess, well, there's a lot of people dependent on things, so they don't want to risk taking a chance on something that's different, deviates from the norm. Well, that's normal in all human endeavors across the planet, um, and so that's understandable. But like, yeah, they're afraid, I think, and the system itself propagandizes people to make them afraid of the loss of the system. It's like, oh, hey, if we went away, oh boy, giant flaming meteorites are coming down. I don't know, wildebeests are coming over the hills. Like we're the only ones keeping them back. That kind of thing. When you can observationally determine that that is not true. Like it's a farce. It's a facade. They're lying. It's all made up. Like, yeah.
You know what occurs to me? The conversation about a la carte tax
Mm,
should actually include law.
yeah.
Like if you're, for instance, not having kids and not paying tax into school and stuff, and and of course, like school laws don't really apply to you, but say you do have a kid and you
Mm,
decide you don't want to pay tax into the schools and you want to homeschool or something,
mm,
the truancy laws should not apply to you. So I think like with the tiers, it should be like whatever level taxpayer you are, you're either like, let's say a minarchist
mm,
or all the way up to like a socialist or something,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
so like the amount of uh contribution or like what's the word I'm looking for? Like involvements or
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
like in society is a gradient, then like however much you put in is how much you can take out,
Yeah.
is how much you can be held accountable for, and so like there's always some level of laws everyone should be held accountable to, even on the anarchy level. That's why I say minarchist.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
of
Well,
course,
no, there's
like they're
still
going to
even,
use the roads and stuff too. So,
yeah.
like it should never be like full on anarchy, but you should be able to basically be off the grid if you choose to be,
Mm-hmm.
as far as possible anyway, like
Well, and also then it would probably reduce resentment.
Mhm.
If you're like you can apportion what is going to what, like the system will know, oh, you would prefer like the majority of these funds to go towards this and a minority to go to that. So it's like, well, okay, well, I'm all pissed off about the military being all expensive and these wars and stuff, but hey, I've only paid $1 this year towards it, so like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever.
You know, if
um
if a system like that were a la carte, you actually wouldn't need any political party if you think about it.
no, no, you wouldn't,
You
you
just
wouldn't.
have administration.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Well,
People
and
to pull the strings and make the gears work,
sure,
and that's
and
it.
a thought that popped into my head while you were talking there, um is perhaps something like this when you were talking about laws and stuff like that, and perhaps something like this could alleviate or potentially solve societal things much faster.
Hmm.
If you think about it, like, oh, what do we have to do to like get rid of segregation in schools? Like, oh, it took an act of fucking God, even though most people didn't support school segregation. Like, whoa, we had like the military coming in and shit, and it was crazy, and all these politicians arguing, and got all, and there's marches and all this stuff. What if it was just because the fact is society changes, our norms change, and that's normal, that's how it happens. And but like we could have ended a lot of those things way earlier. We could, like, same-sex marriage, that's another one. By and large, society, long before the politicians came to the front of the parade and pretended to be leading it, long before that, like, society was like, why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
And but it took decades for that to happen. But it's like, okay, well, it would happen automatically where people are just changing the things and the values and like what they want things to go to, and what kind of things they want legislated. Um, so it's like, or unlegislated. I'd say we have to keep that in mind too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it
Well,
has to be, it has to have a sunset. Every piece of legislation.
most felonies, most laws on the book, to be honest, are crimes like things you can't do to the government.
Yeah.
Like that has to stop.
Mhm.
I I stopped just shy of saying like there shouldn't be any law protecting the government whatsoever, but like it goes way too far. Like and in a system like this where everything's a la carte and like from the bottom up things are handled, you don't really need all these laws getting in the way of things. Like it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yep. And
And
if society changes to the point where something that used to be unacceptable is now acceptable, then, well, it is now acceptable.
yeah.
So what? But, oh, well, there's a law on the books, and it's like, good luck getting rid of that. you know like, that thing's going to be sticking around for another century. Like, we
Yeah.
have all kinds of old shit like, I have a couple of books that talk about these antiquated laws that are still there, is
Mm.
still in place, even though it's like it doesn't even make any sense. I think there's one. It's been a minute since I've checked that out, but I think there was one in like Tacoma where there's a bridge that it's you're legally required to discharge your firearm before crossing the bridge to signal to people, where it's like, okay, that's in conflict with the fact that in the city of Tacoma it's illegal to discharge a firearm, like, just out for willy-nilly, you know so what they contradict each other. So but I mean, it's still on the books. It doesn't make any sense. And that's that. You see, all that shit would be fixed overnight with a
Well, when
system
you
like
get released from jail, aren't you supposed to get a horse and your weight in silver or
this.
something?
Well, not your weight, but yeah, you're supposed to get silver and a horse or something. Yeah, it's like, I, dude, I'll tell you what. If that were like, if they actually followed that, I would go to jail, because I would love to have a horse. Oh my god, I would love that.
Well, silver just kind of outpaced gold on like the percentage wise,
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
think. So like
It's silver's
it's a good
rocking.
time for silver too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I guess I'll go and commit some petty crime to go to jail then. And then be like, "Where's my horse and my silver?" They'll be like,
Eric's here
"What?"
for the drunk tank again.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just pop
He's on
out
his
like,
way to get Taco Bell.
yeah, Taco Bell. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. But I do believe that we should have a system that adapts to circumstances, because
Hmm.
there's even like communications related stuff. Um, there's all these rules and regulations that no longer apply because they made sense back in like the 60s, but they don't make sense now because everything's different. Like, none of the stuff that existed back then exists now, but there's
Yeah.
still laws about it. And like, politicians and legislators and enforcers will like utilize those things to leverage against people. Like, yeah, we need to stop that.
I mean, it makes sense to have a legislative branch, but there needs to be a de-legislative branch
Yes,
that operates alongside of it, like going, like poring over to be like, does this still make sense? Do we still need this? When's the
mhm.
last time this was enforced? Like,
Yeah.
and you know, check all that shit. And
Well, it's kind of like, you know what? Here's a good analogy. The U.S. is like a hoarder house.
oh yeah,
It, like look, look in that. I'm sure everybody's seen those videos and shows and stuff where it's like you can't even walk in there. You're crawling over stuff. Your head is bonking into the ceiling. It's so tall, and you look at it and it's like, oh well, yeah, maybe there's like a couple things on a shelf over there that are kind of neat, or a cabinet that obviously is still a cabinet, but everything in here, it's like empty pizza boxes and dead cats
right.
and stuff like that. Like, what? Why are you hanging on to that? Let it go.
Well, here's the other thing that would make a branch like that very logical to have is that when you go and clean out your attic or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you come across something that you're like, you know what? I need this actually. I completely forgot I had this and this could totally fix this problem I had. You might
Mm-hmm.
come across an old law that would fix a new problem if it was just tweaked and updated a little bit, and you could bring
Sure.
it to the legislative branch and be like, "Hey, polish this up and put it into effect because this will solve a problem X," you know?
Yeah.
And
No.
you wouldn't have found that otherwise because nobody can keep track of all the law. Like
No.
it's
No.
not possible.
Well, every lawyer that I've seen in videos and stuff, you look at their law dictionary and their books of law and stuff. It's just like a whole friggin' library behind them.
Yeah.
It's like, that thing should be like, you should be able to pick it up with two hands or something. Just that should be the totality of all law across the land. Yeah. And I'd also like to see that de-legislative branch should also be analyzing existing stuff. Maybe it's still technically relevant, but maybe it's confusing. So maybe they
Yeah.
can clean it up a little bit. Take that old table that's all scuffed up and polish it a little bit. Put some varnish on that and make it
I
look
mean,
good.
maybe technology could help with some of it too. Like if there's a law that isn't being enacted,
Mm-hmm.
like enforced or anything, chances are it's forgotten.
Yeah.
And why not get rid of it? Like
Sure, sure. And obviously we can archive things.
yeah, like that's probably the better thing is like archive it just in case you need it or
Mm-hmm.
something. You could be like, like when it comes up again, you could be like, okay, this came up in the archives. We won't ding you for it this time, but now it's back on the board. So if you do it again, it is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Or it could just come up for
if it
consideration.
becomes relevant again, okay, bring it
Mm-hmm.
back. Sure. But
Yeah.
otherwise, it's in the archives and it's collecting
Yeah.
dust and it's not being enforced.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a good idea. Yeah, we have like a Wayback Machine or Internet Archive or something like that. That, because it's like, do we really need all these servers keeping this stuff like live? Probably not, because somebody had to pay for that. But it'd be good because, I mean, I've used both of those services to find stuff. I'm like, man, I remember something from like 2002. What happened to that? And I go look it up and it's like, oh man, that's so cool. Like, I found it. But I mean, do I need that website to be still up there and the person who's created it still paying for it to be there? No. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think we're
Megadeth is in the Wayback Machine. They were the first band to have a website.
really.
Yep.
Oh wow, jeez.
Yep. It was called Megadeth Arizona. I even
Arizona.
had a t-shirt that said, "Where the hell is Megadeth Arizona?"
That's funny. Oh my god, man. And that's one of the things too, is like going back through that and looking at how things used to be.
Yeah.
like it was so innocent, but it was also the Wild West. Man, you remember like E-Bomb's World and stuff? God. Jeez, there were, yeah. I
RealUltimatePower.net.
yeah, I think that's actually still around because he sold a book, like he wrote a book
Oh,
and
wow.
sold it, so like probably can afford to keep it still going. Obviously, his real name was not Robert Hamburger. Hmm, hmm. But yeah, it.
Wow.
I don't know. Hmm, man, now you
Who
got me
who
all.
would have thought like trying to explain certain aspects of humanity to aliens would be so fucking cool?
I know. Well, because like that, it's sort of like the seed that
Mhm.
grew this episode because it's sort of in my head of like, oh yeah, like you can't just use human
Yeah.
explanations for things. It's got to go a layer underneath that.
Yeah, and we did touch on a lot of stuff that really honestly wouldn't make sense outside of a human context, like
Mm-hmm.
stock markets, marriage, and even to some degree the laws that we have
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
wouldn't make any sense. I mean, even when you go to another country, sometimes the laws are like this doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
whatsoever because you don't have the cultural context behind it,
Sure,
you know?
absolutely. And not only that, but like there's an absence of laws in some places that you'd be like, well, wait, what? Why isn't there a
Mhm.
law for that? And they're like, well, because it never happens here. You know,
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, nobody steals really in Japan. It's kind of a rare thing. So like they don't need, it doesn't have to be all complicated. Um, yeah. But like you go to somewhere else where, yeah,
You lose your hand in some countries.
sure, get tossed off a building for looking at a dude. If you're a dude, I mean, yeah.
Looking at a dude like googly eyes, kind of looking at a dude, or
Well, like certain countries, they take offense to people, the guys that like other guys. I think they
oh,
don't mind girls that like other girls, though. See,
no,
that's
no, that's never.
no, of course not.
That's okay on the whole universe, probably.
I
Aliens would be
know.
like, oh yeah, girls on girls. Yep.
Like, oh yeah, giggity. Oh yeah. Well, and
It would
I,
be interesting, like, to see what aliens have in common with humans too. Like,
mhm. I would imagine that there'd be a lot more in common than we'd expect.
mhm.
There'd
Well,
also
we
be
even
things.
touched on that too, like things with personal value and stuff like that.
Yeah,
That probably exists in alien societies if aliens exist, which
sure.
I'm sure they
We
probably do
we know,
somewhere.
of course they do. Yeah, and you could imagine that societies and alien civilizations would evolve similarly. You know,
Yeah.
maybe not exactly the same, but like life
I mean, no
forms
matter
would.
what, you have to make a tool to make yourself a shelter or whatever,
Sure, and
So, like, you have things, and those
mhm.
things do important things for you and
Well,
mean
yeah,
something to you. So,
absolutely. And who knows? You obviously like everywhere you go, there's going to be scarcity of resources, especially initially until you've built those tools. And that will create conflict. And so there will be similar experiences in that regard and potentially similar societal evolution. Um,
hmm.
and so yeah,
There
it's
could
like
there could though be prevailing philosophies that create societies that don't that aren't predicated on conflict. I would hope so anyway.
I think no. In fact, I am very confident that ultimately that is the end path. Like
Hmm.
that's kind of the trajectory is leading in that direction. It's just obviously it takes time, and there's a lot of variables that can get in the way of that. That like deviations in the path that
Yeah.
occur. Um, but ultimately that's where it'll be headed. Especially when you have technological evolution, especially we even look at the like, or not the US, but the world, where things have gone. I mean, we're a far cry from the hunter gatherers that we were back in the day. Um, I mean, now we're like, well, land is kind of the only uh, scarce resource, but even then, like, well, we're figuring out ways of using land that would be unusable. So, like, oh, okay, well, we're not really out of land just yet. We're not really out of water just yet. Um, and and of course, we're obviously a spacefaring species now, so we could look for greener pastures or other places to explore and stuff. And so it's like, okay, well, at some point in time, we'll be there. We won't need to ration anything on Earth, and then we'll be out there going to other star systems and moving people there, or just into orbit or whatever. There's all kinds of things. It and that's the hope that I have, and I think, I guess that's my hope for humanity, that people not only work towards that end goal, but believe in that end goal, and conduct yourself in the day to day that, like, hey, someday we'll be there, and stop all this fighting and argumentation and stuff like that. All these conflicts that we have, it should, I don't know, it just bothers me that the people are so hyper focused and so myopic in their vision about things that they're like, oh, now is all there is. Like, I mean, well, okay, yes, technically you are correct, but 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 if you operated in that way, well, you wouldn't even eat. You'd like poop your pants, like, stupid things would happen. Like, but yet you don't do the. I mean, you eat and you go to the toilet and stuff like that. Plan ahead. So obviously, time is not stationary.
There's a great song called Scripture to Kitchen Sink where one of the rappers said, we're going to be telling truth for not only black, not only white, but for humanity.
Yeah. Yep.
Godly mind state.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I wonder what he's up to these days. We should have him back on the show.
I know. Yeah. Ocean. Yeah. You should definitely come back on the show.
Some good conversations we had with him
I know.
his friend Tip.
Oh yeah, imagine if with Tip too, like, imagine if the four of us had our own, like, college course.
Yeah.
We were like professors and stuff. Just kind of doing this and engaging with people.
Yeah,
Man, that would change the world, I think.
sure would.
Certainly would take time, but everything, things that are worth doing are worth waiting for. Yeah.
Well, if I had to explain to an alien what it means to have your back teeth floating, um, I would hope that they have something akin to a bladder so that they could
They'd
understand.
be like, wait, are those the teeth that are on your feet? It's like,
Those
whoa.
your genital teeth
Yeah.
or
Oh man.
oh, so that's why your species doesn't have rape. Okay.
New kink unlocked. Oh man. All right. Well, I think we've gone on long enough for today. Uh Share your comments, of course, as always. Tell us what you think. And yeah, come back next time for another fantastic kitchen sink microscopy. That's or live croscopy.
Yeah.
All
Maybe
right.
we'll ask aliens what kind of porn they have.
Yeah, we'll figure that out and we'll come back to it. So definitely. All right, everybody.